Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever wondered how to really tell when a man is falling hard for you, look closer. It's not always in what he says. It's in the subtle moves, the hidden signals, the psychological shifts he doesn't even realize he's making. These aren't just cute gestures. They're instinctive behaviors that reveal he's crazy about you. And once you know how to spot them, you'll never question his intentions again. Stay with me. Because once you see these signs, you can't unsee them. When someone is drawn to you on a deep emotional level, there's a natural inclination to move in sync with your energy. This doesn't come from a place of calculation. It flows from emotional connection. Without even realizing it, they start to mirror your tone, your pace, your posture, even the words you use. It's as if they're tuning into your frequency, adjusting themselves to match the rhythm you live in. This subtle mimicry isn't about copying, it's about resonance. When someone feels close to another, they reflect their emotions and behaviors because alignment builds trust. It creates a feeling of, we're in this together. That sense of being understood and seen without words is magnetic. And it often begins before either person even realizes it. This synchronicity can show up in the smallest moments. How you both reach for a glass at the same time, how laughter seems to land perfectly in unison, how eye contact holds just a fraction longer than expected. These are not random. They're emotional signals. It's the body's way of saying, I feel connected. And when there's emotional investment, that connection doesn't just stay on the surface, it deepens. The more time spent together, the more natural the synchronization becomes. You may find that silence feels less awkward and more like a comfortable pause. There's less need to fill space with words because presence is enough. What was once conscious becomes instinctive. Language, too, begins to echo. You may notice familiar phrases slipping into their speech, things you always say, expressions uniquely yours, and it's not mockery, it's subtle admiration. It's the mind gravitating toward what it feels drawn to, what it enjoys hearing and who it wants to stay close to. This kind of mirroring is often subconscious, but it holds emotional weight. It's a reflection of attentiveness, of focus placed on the other person in a way that says, you matter here. And when someone makes you feel seen in that way, it fosters security, it nurtures connection, often before love is even spoken out loud. This behavior also shows up in how they match your emotional state. If you're feeling low, they might become gentler, quieter, more thoughtful. If you're excited, they rise to meet you with equal enthusiasm. It's a way of saying, I'm with you in this moment, whatever it is. Emotional attunement is one of the clearest signs of intimacy, and when it's genuine, it doesn't feel performative. It feels calming, natural, and grounding. That sense of being met where you are emotionally brings safety to the relationship. It tells you that you don't have to put on a mask. You're allowed to feel, to express, to be real. When people speak of chemistry, this is often what they mean, even if they don't have the words for it. It's that undeniable feeling that things just click, that you're being understood even when you're not explaining, that your energy is being met without you needing to ask. The beauty of this kind of unspoken connection is that it builds momentum. It creates a space where vulnerability becomes easier, where walls begin to fall, not through pressure but through comfort. And as that comfort grows, so does trust. Trust that what you give emotionally will be met, not dismissed. These micro signals build the foundation for something deeper. What starts as mimicry becomes a pattern of emotional reflection. It leads to shared inside jokes, a rhythm in conversation, the sense that time bends when you're together. You both begin to exist in your own little world, still a part of the bigger one, but somehow outside of it too. It's in this world that connection flourishes. Not in dramatic declarations, but in the way someone leans in a little more when you talk, in the way their eyes hold yours a moment longer, in the way presence feels deliberate, not distracted. It's important to understand that none of this is about performance. Genuine alignment doesn't come from trying too hard. It comes from caring. When someone truly cares, they become curious. And when they're curious, they observe, not to judge, but to learn. They notice the cadence of your voice when you're happy, the way you move your hands when you're passionate about something, the subtle changes in your mood. That awareness creates connection, not the shallow kind that fades after a few compliments, but the real kind, built on attention and emotional availability. There's a beauty in being mirrored, not because it flatters the ego, but because it validates the self. It shows you that you're being taken in, not just looked at. That your presence leaves a trace. Your words echo beyond the moment. When someone's energy aligns with yours without trying, you feel it. You feel the effort without pressure, the presence without demand. And that creates space for honesty. It creates the kind of emotional safety that allows love to show up, not loudly, but clearly, with consistency, with quiet certainty. All of this can happen before a single romantic word is spoken. Connection often begins in the unspoken, in what is sensed more than said. When someone naturally syncs with your energy, it's often because their guard is down around you. They're not performing, they're responding to who you are, how you move through the world, and what you bring out in them. That response is meaningful. It signals that this isn't just surface attraction, it's something felt, something lived. The reflection you see isn't them becoming you, it's them opening up to you. Over time, these moments weave together into a bond that feels effortless. You don't have to think about the connection, it's just there. And it grows stronger not through grand gestures, but through consistent reflection. The sense that you're understood, even without always being explained. When someone aligns with your energy in this way, they're not just showing interest. They're showing presence, awareness, and depth. And in a world full of distraction and surface-level attention, that kind of connection stands out. Not because it's flashy, but because it's rare, real, and quietly powerful. There's a moment, quiet and almost unnoticeable, when a name drops into a conversation. Someone else, someone unexpected. It might seem casual, like a fleeting mention, a friend, a co-worker, someone from the gym. But there's a flicker of curiosity behind it, a pause, a glance to see how it lands. This isn't about stirring drama or playing games. It's about observation. There's a desire to know, how much does this matter to you? Is there a shift in tone, a raised eyebrow? Even the subtlest response says something. The quiet test isn't about jealousy. It's about emotional investment. This test appears in the lightest forms, cloaked in nonchalance. Maybe there's a story involving someone attractive, a light-hearted compliment about a stranger, or a vague reference to past interest. Nothing overtly threatening, but just enough to see if it stirs anything. The goal isn't to make someone uncomfortable. It's to gently touch the edge of emotional territory, the territory where care lives. If no reaction comes at all, a seed of doubt can form, not because validation is needed, but because reassurance is longed for. A sense of, I'm not the only one feeling this, right? So it becomes a probe, not for ego, but for connection. The irony is that the intention behind these tests is often misunderstood. It might be seen as manipulation or immaturity, but that's rarely the case when the feeling is real. Instead, it comes from vulnerability. When someone begins to care deeply, they also begin to fear. Fear that the feeling might be one-sided, that the attachment may not be mirrored, that what they hope is growing might not be rooted in something mutual. And so the test is a way to feel that out, softly, carefully, without having to ask the question outright. It's a safety net for the heart. Reactions in these moments reveal emotional truth. They aren't always big. Sometimes they're barely noticeable, but they matter. A brief pause, a quieter tone, a curious question. It's not about overreacting. It's about showing engagement, about signaling that this dynamic means something. Because silence in this context can feel like distance, like detachment. And for someone emotionally invested, that silence can be louder than words. It can echo. That's why even the gentlest cue of interest or possessiveness can feel like affirmation. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. There's also an instinct to spark desire through contrast. By referencing someone else, there's a subtle message being sent. I'm not invisible. I'm valued by others too. It's not about competition. It's about awakening attention. Sometimes when emotions settle into a rhythm, there's a fear of being taken for granted. A fear that interest might fade unless stirred. And so a comparison is introduced, not to provoke, but to ignite, to remind the other person of what's present, what could be lost, what deserves to be appreciated. What's fascinating is that this behavior is usually unconscious. It's not scripted or planned, it just happens. It slips into the flow of conversation, and only upon reflection does its meaning become clear. It's a moment born out of emotion, not strategy. A mix of care and uncertainty, a desire for closeness, but also a fear of rejection. The safest way to protect those feelings is to mask them as something lighter, a joke, a casual mention, a side note, but behind it is a question aching for an answer. Do I matter to you as much as you matter to me? When feelings are deepening, stakes begin to rise. Suddenly what the other person thinks, feels, and does starts to carry weight. Their opinions matter. Their attention matters. Their loyalty matters. So when that attention is potentially diverted elsewhere, it creates a response, not because of insecurity, but because of investment. If there were no emotional stake, there'd be no reaction. That's why these little moments, these brief tests, say so much. They tell the truth about how connected someone feels and how much they long to be chosen, even when it's already assumed. What often follows these subtle tests is a watchfulness. Not overt pressure, but a quiet waiting, looking for clues in how the other person responds. Do they express curiosity? Do they lean in or retreat? Do they brush it off or ask more? These are cues that either confirm closeness or expose a gap. Not every moment needs to be addressed directly, but they matter. They offer insight into how emotionally safe the space between two people really is. When someone feels secure, they don't need to test. But when they're unsure, this is one of the gentlest ways to ask, is this real for you too? The best way to navigate these moments is with presence, with awareness, by recognizing the emotional undertone behind the words, responding not to the surface, but to what's underneath. When someone subtly brings another into the conversation, don't just listen to who's being mentioned, listen to why. Is it to get a rise, or is it to feel seen? Most often it's the latter. It's a request for emotional engagement, a quiet bid for clarity. And in that moment, the most powerful response is authenticity, a real grounded reflection of what's felt. In the end, these small emotional strategies aren't about trickery. They're about connection. They're the heart's attempt to find stability when vulnerability begins to rise. It's not about creating jealousy, but discovering closeness. Not about testing love, but feeling out safety. These moments, when seen clearly, become opportunities, not threats. Opportunities to affirm, to connect, and to deepen something that already has roots. Because when someone truly cares, they'll seek reassurance not just through words, but through the emotional space that exists between the lines. And if that space is handled with care, it becomes a foundation for something honest and lasting. Support doesn't always arrive in grand gestures or loud declarations. Sometimes it's in the steady presence of someone who remembers the things that light you up, the way they ask about the project you've been working on, or the casual way they check in before a big meeting. Those moments carry weight. They reflect genuine attention, the kind that comes from someone who's listening not just with their ears, but with their heart. It's easy to overlook these smaller moments, but they're the clearest indicators of quiet loyalty. This kind of presence doesn't demand credit or praise. It simply wants to be close to what you care about. When someone roots for you this way, it's not performative, it's instinctive. They see your wins as meaningful beyond your relationship because your happiness matters to them on its own. In this space, encouragement becomes second nature. Not just words of affirmation, but the kind of belief that sees you even when you can't see yourself. There's something grounding about being reminded of your strengths, especially when doubt begins to creep in. That voice that reminds you what you're capable of is powerful. It creates emotional safety, a kind of trust that doesn't need constant reassurance. It's not about flattery or compliments for the sake of it. It's about mirroring the truth of your potential when your own vision of it becomes blurry. You feel supported, Not because someone tells you what you want to hear, but because they reflect back what they genuinely believe about you. That belief creates momentum. It breathes life into your aspirations in a way few things can. This kind of support goes deeper than surface-level interest. It shows up in remembering the details that most would forget. The date of an important event, the little things you're nervous about, the long-term dreams you barely mentioned once. That kind of memory is intentional. It's born out of real presence, noticing the rhythm of your ambitions, the effort you pour into the things you care about. When someone pays attention to those parts of you, it signals more than admiration. It signals alignment. It tells you that your journey matters, not just as an individual pursuit, but as something they want to walk beside. Being cheered on in this way means your success is shared. There's no competition, no hidden insecurity, no silent resentment when you rise. Instead, there's genuine excitement. The kind where your joy becomes contagious. Where the look in someone's eyes when you share good news is filled with pride and happiness, not pretense. You begin to realize that they're not just celebrating what you achieve, but who you are when you achieve it. That recognition builds confidence, not because someone is inflating your ego, but because they're reinforcing the truth of your value. This kind of emotional partnership creates a loop of energy. You give to your goals, and they give back through support. And suddenly, the road doesn't feel so long. Challenges don't feel quite as heavy when you know someone is silently behind you, cheering you on even when the path is unclear. It's in the way they stay close, not just when you succeed, but especially when things fall apart. When setbacks come, and they always do, it's not the solutions they offer that matter most, but the way they stay present through the discomfort. That loyalty in your low moments speaks volumes. There's also a sense of pride that begins to emerge, and not the boastful kind, but the quiet kind, the kind that wants to share your light with the world. You might notice subtle things, a mention of your success in front of others, or how someone lights up when you're being recognized. That's not about status, it's about respect. They admire not just what you do, but the passion behind it, and they want others to see it too. It's an honest celebration of your growth, a kind of partnership that doesn't just stand behind you, it walks beside you every step of the way. The emotional foundation built here is strong because it's consistent. It doesn't vanish when things get hard. It doesn't shift when attention is elsewhere. It remains steady, often quietly so. You might not always notice it in the moment, but you'll feel its absence if it ever fades. This kind of cheerleading isn't always loud. It's woven into everyday life, into the thoughtful message before something important, into the presence at your side when you're doubting everything, into the way someone holds space for you even when there's nothing to fix, only to feel. There's a beauty in knowing that you don't have to carry everything alone, that your dreams, your drive, your effort, none of it exists in a vacuum. It's being seen and honored by someone who truly gets it. Not because they want something in return, but because your light brings out something meaningful in them. The desire to uplift comes from admiration, not obligation. And in a world where people often withhold support out of fear or comparison, this kind of authentic encouragement is rare and deeply needed. Over time, that encouragement becomes a mirror, a reminder of how far you've come, even when you forget. It helps you anchor to purpose, to resilience. When someone genuinely sees you for who you are and what you're capable of, it's easier to believe in yourself. Their voice becomes part of your internal dialogue. Their faith in you becomes a foundation to build from. It's a form of emotional intimacy that transcends words. It's felt in the way they stand by you, speak about you, and celebrate with you. At its core, this is about belonging. The feeling that someone not only supports you, but is deeply proud of you. That your journey isn't something they observe from afar, but something they feel invested in. This connection doesn't ask for recognition. It thrives in sincerity. And when it's present, it has the power to transform how you see yourself, how you chase your goals, and how you experience love. Because when someone cheers you on from a place of real care, you don't just move forward, you rise. There's something unmistakable about the way time stretches when emotions run deep. Conversations linger, Goodbyes take longer, and suddenly the minutes feel too short. The moment starts to carry more weight than it logically should. It's not about dramatic declarations or overt signals. It's in the pauses. The way a simple hangout turns into hours without anyone noticing. The way silence starts to feel like a form of presence rather than an awkward gap. These aren't just social cues, they're emotional ones. Staying a little longer, finding an excuse to remain in someone's space, is rarely about convenience. It's about connection, comfort, and not wanting the moment to end. Excuses to stay become more frequent, though never forced. Maybe there's one more story to share, one more show to watch, one more walk to take. The surface reason doesn't matter nearly as much as what it reveals. There's an emotional pull that isn't easy to define. Something that says, this feels good, and I'm not ready for it to be over. When emotional safety exists, time becomes secondary. You don't check the clock. You don't rush the exit. The rhythm of interaction becomes dictated not by the schedule, but by the feeling. That quiet choice to linger is its own form of affection. It's subtle, but it speaks volumes. It often begins with the smallest moments, offering to help with something simple, asking a question that opens a deeper conversation, or suggesting something spontaneous to prolong the interaction. None of it feels forced. It flows from a place of genuine comfort. When someone enjoys where they are and who they're with, the moment becomes its own destination. There's no need to plan the next thing. They're fully present, fully immersed. The idea of leaving feels like pulling away from something meaningful, even if they don't articulate it. That's what makes the extra time so sincere. It's chosen, not obligated. The desire to extend time together doesn't always look romantic on the surface. It can be as simple as helping with dishes, offering to walk someone home, or staying to talk about something mundane. But behind each action is a message. Being with you is more fulfilling than being anywhere else right now. These small choices add up. They paint a picture of someone who values connection and seeks it in the moments most people rush through. There's no pressure in these moments, only presence. And presence is one of the rarest, purest gifts a person can offer. When emotions are real, leaving doesn't come easily. Even when responsibilities call, there's a soft resistance. A foot dragging at the door, a hand lingering on the doorknob, and okay, just one more thing, that turns into 10 more minutes. These are the moments that reveal emotional depth more than words can. They're the emotional footprints left behind when time is no longer measured in hours, but in how it feels. The warmth in the room, the sound of shared laughter, the ease in silence. When someone stays a little longer, it's not time they're giving, it's presence. This kind of presence builds emotional intimacy without needing grand romantic gestures. It says, I like who I am when I'm around you. It's about belonging, about being seen without effort. The desire to stay longer is driven by comfort, not obligation. It's where connection grows in the quiet spaces, between the lines of conversation, in the shared stillness, in the unspoken ease of simply being there. The person who stays doesn't need to impress or perform. They're not afraid of pauses or quiet moments. They're there because they genuinely want to be. And that's what makes it powerful. It's in these extended moments that trust is built. Not by doing anything extravagant, but by showing up and staying present. There's no script to follow, no expectation to meet, just shared time that naturally expands. That consistency, that willingness to remain in the moment tells a deeper story. It says, you're enough as you are, and being around you is its own kind of peace. Emotional connection doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives slowly, gently, through continued presence and quiet care. This lingering presence also speaks to emotional security. When someone feels safe, they don't rush to escape. They don't need to fill every second with distraction. They settle in, they relax into the moment. And when someone chooses to stay, even when they have the option to leave, it reveals a deep desire for closeness. Not because they need something from the other person, but because they want to offer something themselves. Their time, their energy, their emotional availability. And they offer it freely with no strings attached. There's also an unspoken vulnerability in choosing to stay longer. It's a soft reveal, a way of saying, I'm comfortable here. I feel good in your presence. It might be easier to come and go quickly to keep things casual, but lingering creates space for depth, for things to unfold naturally, for conversations to go where they need to go, and emotions to rise without being rushed. Staying longer isn't just about the time, it's about the choice. It's a reflection of value, how much a connection matters and how rare it feels in a world constantly moving fast. Ultimately, these extra minutes are rarely just minutes, they are quiet affirmations. They are emotional investments. They are the pauses that deepen bonds. Staying a little longer becomes a habit, and in that habit lives consistency, warmth, and care. It's a reflection of emotional closeness that doesn't need to be spoken out loud. You can feel it in the energy, in the silence, in the way goodbye keeps getting pushed back. Because when time is shared from a place of sincerity, it becomes more than just time, it becomes a form of love.